today's topic, of course, Sonil is going to come up. But many people are unfortunately, instead of becoming a fitness lover, they are turning to become a fitness freak. So I never liked that name. I mean, the freak name itself is freaking me out, but the name fitness freak is not right. It's not a compliment. It's not a compliment. That's all I want to say. It's something that's bad. There should always be a balance. You love training, good for you. Do the training. But have you seen some of the bodybuilders? Their body is so nice, so awesome. But over here is all empty. They don't know nothing. They just know how to lift. So balance, if it's not there now, either way, study also. People are so intelligent in books, reading, but they don't have the common sense to talk. So
you cannot do any comparisons, where you have people who are trying to live a necessity, trying to meet up with the basic necessities. You just can't compare it to the gym. I know the gyms are shut, the owners are having issues, the trainers are having issues, even the members are also having issues. But then at the end of the day, there has to be a certain, like you said, a balance. But the balance has to be right. Now, gym is the place where people come along, they go out there, right? Am I audible to everybody?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Okay, yes. Now, see, when you go to the gym, what is it? We are going to be sweating out there. And, we're using the towels, we're using those equipments, the benches and everything. So maintaining the sanctity of the place in terms of sanitization, you need to have one person with you who has to always keep cleaning and scrubbing the bench after you're done. And that is not going to be possible, one. Secondly, when you are there as a personal trainer, what will a personal trainer do? He is there for the member to help you, to assist you. So that person has to have a certain contact with the member. The trainers and the members have to have a certain contact, right? They cannot do things from a distance. So that's also where one needs to understand that. So the probability of contracting in the gym is much more higher compared to if you're comparing to a restaurant where you're talking of like 50% occupancy. But people are going to be sitting in staggered places. Whereas in the gym, again, I'm going to come back to the point, is the sanity. How are you going to maintain the hygiene? So that's, again, it's a different ballpark game altogether where people have to understand that. And yes, everybody who loves the gym, who likes to train and all that stuff. And coming to the point like where you mentioned from a person who loves to exercise, now he becomes a gym freak. And yes, they have all the muscles and no bronze. They used to say, sorry, it's all the bronze and no brains. Like you were just mentioning, if you know, Arush, around 40, 50 years back, bodybuilding was not a sport at all. It was only meant for people who did not have the brains. They go to the gym, they used to just pump and that is it. So any person you see as a bodybuilder, you knew he was a dumb guy. That was the basic concept. But now 20 years back now, things have changed. Nutrition is coming to the core. The diet is coming to the face. So everybody wants to become more health conscious. They think I'll have a few muscles, I can get a few babes, I'll look good. I'll be doing all my modeling and ramp and all that stuff. So it has become from a craze, it has become now a freak show now. So everybody is talking about gym, this muscle, that muscle, this diet, that diet, this shake, that shake. No, it's really gone berserk.
Telling about the difference between restaurants and the gyms now, why the government is not opening. Today, only in the afternoon, we were talking about another thing, which was certainly has more point than restaurant. Cinema. As you know, cinemas are going to be open from 15th.
So that's against stupidity.
So one friend was saying, like, how come cinemas are open, gyms are not open? And I simply just gave one answer. I said, see, when you go to cinema, you don't actually touch everywhere when you go. You just walk in the garden, go and sit in your place, come out. It's still for sanitizing and cleaning the place is manageable. Gym, you are supposed to touch everything. You are meant to touch everything. Exactly. How many years we used to tell our clients, please carry your own zipper, please carry your own bottle. They used to go like, I'm sorry, so disgusting. do the sharing glass over there and just take it in the air and take it. No, how can we couldn't educate them about carrying their own zipper. How can we educate them to carry your own hygiene? Now, towel is another concept. Now, myself, I hate towels. I don't carry napkins. I rather sit on a bench myself, clean it with my own body clothes. Not no, that's a habit. So now, how can you bring that cleanness into that wild environment? Because that environment in the gym, you might have seen it. I work with platinum gyms. I work with primary gyms. You don't get that hardcore feeling. Most of our clients used to come, look at a place, and just leave because you don't see that insanity. And when you go in gyms, some people they do big gyms. They do in California. You can see Arnold used to play, and they like those kind of gym, which is like really tough, hardcore, because that's where it made you. That where you can grow yourself. I hate ACs. I still like the window old type of fans, those kind, because AC is not giving me that breathing that I need, especially if it's a leg day, which I require more oxygen. I always, for any reason, used to walk out, take a deep breath, and then come back in because I needed more oxygen, a fresh one.
Exactly. Exactly. The ACs, training in the ACs and everything has really ruined that system. And when you tend to train in the open, that's why these, and if you go down to the South Beach and all that stuff, that's why they really picked up because they had the gyms in the open. But they did not do well only just because of the reason that by the beach, you're talking of salt water around there. So that the equipments require a lot of maintenance. So it was really difficult for those things to really happen. But then, yeah, working out in the open, sweating it out the way it is, really helps to build up everything around. You don't need no cardio training at all. This is where how it starts, and this is how you build it up. But also coming to the fact where you mentioned about the cinema halls, I have my point of view also in this. I would like to add. Now, see, when you're in a cinema hall, you have to remember one thing, that it's an enclosed environment. Air conditioning is on and everything, right? We have our social distancing done perfectly, no problem. It's the same thing. Like if you're on a flight also, we have a social distancing done. But remember one thing, it's an air conditioning, but on a flight, if I'm giving a very wrong example of the flight, because I'll tell you why. Now, in an air conditioning environment, when you sneeze or when you cough, it stays within that perimeter of that enclosed wall where the air conditioning is running. So it spreads within that. It's like a containment zone. So people who are there, if there is one person out there out of 50, the rest assured the remaining 49 would get it. Now on a flight, now what they are doing is on the flight now, what I have seen, the Boeing and all that stuff, they are the air conditioning units which they have something like an anti-viral kind of a thing which goes along. So if you do cough or if you do sneeze, it kind of eliminates it in the air, so it will not spread further. So if they can bring that within the system here in the cinema halls, or whether it be in the gym also, yeah. So then, yeah, we can afford to take that chance of going ahead. But then gym is a very close contact. Like you said, you're touching everything, you're sweating it out there. It's very, very risky, a risky zone.
No, but I feel a cinema in a cinema hall, the worst thing that is there is your seat.
Yes.
Your seat has been in contact with so many people. All right. There are shows before you. There are shows going to be after you. You're using that same seat. There are so many people using the same seat, and 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 knowing what the systems in India would be, that people would say that we are doing this hygiene and that hygiene, and I'm sure nobody's going in between two shows to go and clean each and every seat, which is not
Exactly,
possible.
No. Not possible.
Not
and
possible.
how much is the time they have between each movie? Is like 15 to 20 minutes, and 15 to 20 minutes covering
not even
up the
10,
entire...
15 minutes.
Exactly. So
10, 15 minutes. It's not possible.
Not possible at all.
It's not possible.
Very short session today because we don't have much of an audience. But for Arash, what I'll do is I will share with you a certain file which I have made, right? I will share that with you, but I'll walk you through this right now itself. so you can also understand what is it, because when you're doing the training and all, it becomes very important to have the right way of getting things done. Yeah, you can see the screen now. Well,
Yeah.
this is basically, we are talking of the military press, yeah, the front shoulder press, right? Now you see this angle here. The angle makes a very crucial technique. If it is not done in the right way, can lead to a lot of injuries. The injury can happen here in your elbow. You can lead to an injury here around the wrist. You see this, and your shoulder naturally where you're training. So the whole idea is that you need to have this completely parallel running. First thing is the positioning. This, you see the wrist out here is straight. It is not bent at all. So the whole pressure out here is spread across. The whole weight is gone straight down out here, and your wrist is not taking the entire pressure as compared to in this position here. Here also the wrist is taking the pressure because it is angled in front. Right? So you're getting this point? Say, here you have these two also same thing where you are talking of a different angle of the wrist and the same wrist here. But the whole idea is keeping it straight, parallel for any kind of a thing. So this is basically when you're doing the exercise itself. So your wrist plays a very important role, not to keep. At many a times people tend to curl it up whenever you're doing your bicep curl and you do your holding the bar and you're curling. 60 to 70% weight is taken by the wrist, spread across the forearm, and very little you're getting on the bicep. And if you tend to keep it straight, then you're more sure that you are not going to injure your wrist and the pressure has been taken by the bicep. Coming up here now, the same thing what a lot of people tend to do is, in this positioning, this is very rare when happens only when you're doing on a free weight. So I always recommend for new people when they come to the gym, right, they should always go with the free weight. They should not go on the machine for a very simple reason, because they need to understand and their muscle needs to develop that memory that this is the kind of a movement. If you're doing this same thing on a Smith machine, all you have to do is just monitor your angle. That's about it. But the remaining lift up and all will be in a straight position because it's on a Smith machine. But then the muscle memory, when you have to go on a free weight, then you will have this kind of a movement. Maybe you'll just go way behind your neck, or you'll be way too much in front. And when you go way behind your neck, you're going to have a strain straight on your back, and you can have a problem on your neck also. And here, there's no use of doing what you're doing. It really makes no sense. So the whole idea is you're taking it straight up and straight and down. This is the kind of a position that you have to make sure you maintain with them. Now, if I look at it from the front angle of the same positioning, this is how it is that we were talking, and this is how it is in front. So don't go too wide. When you go wide, right, is more on an advanced side. Then you can go wide is behind when you're doing on the back press, right? When you're doing the front press, you always try to keep a narrow grip. This is the appropriate grip for the front. But when you want to go for the back, why it tend to go wide is for a very simple reason. It helps to broaden your shoulders. The same thing is the same concept with your pull-ups when you're doing your chin-ups also. Don't take the shoulder length, go on a wider this thing. When you are, why do we do our front pull, right, for our back? Why do we do a narrow, and why is it compared to the wide? When you do the wide, it helps to build up your back more. It gives it a V shape. Coming to the grips, when you're talking on how to hold the bar. So you see this is where the people tend to do is overlapping. And this is the right way of actually holding, because the whole pressure is here on your palm. And when you tend to have the bar on this side of your palm, automatically your wrist will bend. But if you're holding the bar on this, so it is straight. But if the bar is here, right? So the whole pressure is on the wrist. So we don't want that to happen. So we have to make sure that we are holding it straight. Okay. And this is a locking for the presses. Now, when we can have the lock over the bar itself, when we doing a triceps or when we are doing our bench press for a chest, that's when you can have that kind of a look. Here you can see how it tends to affect your shoulder blades when you do it wrong. And it can lead to injuries. And these are very severe injuries because then it can lead to a locking of your shoulders, dislocation of your shoulders. And once the ligaments around there are torn, then they are going to be really a lifetime injury. So we need to avoid that kind of a problem also. Now, the next very crucial thing is the squatting. I have a few slides on the squatting because squatting is something where people are all the time making mistakes, and everybody, every trainer and everyone comes with their own theories and everything. But the true form is basically is maintaining this center of gravity of your body. This is what we call is the center of your gravity, where the bar is kept on your shoulder, which goes trickle down to the mid of your hip, all the way down to the mid of your leg. This is your starting point. You go down and you bend and you sit accordingly, and that's how you go and up. Many a times people are keeping this angle. If you see this, your foot width is smaller compared to your shoulder. Then there are people where compared to your shoulder width, your feet is wider. The right way is just to keep the same shoulder length for the legs. You can go on the wide. You can go on the inner is only for the people who are going on powerlifting and power training, and then they need to work on the inner and the outer muscles of their hands and the quads. That's when you tend to work around those angles, but that is more of an advanced training. But you have to make sure the basics are met here. And this is the same movement when you are doing your free squats also. Coming to the next slide is when you are squatting down. How is the positioning of your leg? Here, if you see this, when your legs are not positioned, if they are too narrow or when they're too wide, this is the right positioning of the leg. Always. Now, in this case, the person we are seeing, he is actually looking down. This is something which I would not recommend. Is basically for a very simple reason, because you should always have your chin up. Whenever you're squatting down, always have a chin up. So it helps to keep your back not bent, but it keeps it at an angle. I will come to the next slide with that itself. Here you see this is the angle which you need to maintain. Center is the complete point where you go in. The bar has to be in center, and when it goes down, it is right in the center of your leg. And this is the angle that you need to maintain, not this angle when you are looking down. You will get this kind of an angle. So this is the kind of straight angle that you need to make sure that they are on. The squatting is basically, you've seen it, Arash, is really a problematic area where a lot of people have issues, and a lot of injuries happen here, especially with your knees and your back if they're not done right. So we have to make sure that they are doing this in the right position. Now, this is the other part itself. When you're going down, how much you should bend down. People go down. They've always had this question: is how much should we actually sit? So this is the right position. Why we're talking of it is a little bit below than your sitting level. Sitting level would be a little bit at this level of your knee length. That's when we talk about the half squats. Now this is kind of a full squat because it's a little bit below the seat level. You get my point? So this is where we have to maintain. And when you go right below down, you are actually creating a damage. Your ligaments have been overextended here, and your kneecaps are taking the whole toll. Let's not talk about the back here. The whole pressure is on the knee here. And when you're taking this position, the whole pressure is on the back here. So we need to avoid that. We need to balance this. It's a very, squatting is injury prone. So we have to try to minimize it with the right technique. Again, here you see this, the head. You're taking your chin up itself, really. But when you talk about chin up itself, when I say the chin up is the angle, is not right going up all the way where you are doing that. Because when you go all the way up, you are going to create a curve on your back. When you go down, it will still give you the curve. So you have to make sure that this is your point where you are now chin up. You go down, same point you're getting up. to maintain the angle of the back. Another highly prone to injuries is our deadlifts. And deadlifts is something which is very scary because even a small weight, not a heavy weight itself, can cause very severe injuries to the back because this is the whole toll taken by the back itself. Again, the way you're lifting it up, you should never arc. Whether it's a concave or whether it's a convex scarf, it's wrong. You have to try to always make sure it is straight. So what you as a trainer itself, you have to make sure that this scarf is not there and they maintain a straight line. Is why when a person is bending down, you just keep your hand right from their waist to their neck. You keep your hand like this. So make sure that the whole body is touching your hand. So you know that this is the angle that they have to maintain. And they also know this is the position that we have to do. Same positioning of your neck. If you see here, like we had in the squatting, you're not overlooking, you're not looking down, but you're just maintaining the same chin level. Then we talk about the grips. In this, if you see, the grip is not, the grip is also has to be proper shoulder length, not too in, not too wide, but properly shoulder. You see this, how well it is placed? See the hands. Once you do the lift, how the lift has to be. This is completely wrong. This also is wrong when we try to do a chest up. This to a certain extent is okay. To a certain extent is okay. But this is the right positioning we're talking. In this position, if you see, what they're doing is basically, instead of doing a deadlift, they're doing a shrug. The shoulder is lifting up. Coming to the point of grips. A lot of people have, this is something where I leave it very open and it's not a convention that you need to have this kind of a grip or that kind of, but for deadlift it's always good to have opposite grips. Opposites. These are the opposites. This is what we talk about straight, right? And then we are talking about this opposites. Why we do that? And every alternate time you need to keep changing it. So this kind of helps to, hold the weight much more stronger. You have that kind of a strength where you can hold it up. Coming to the point of your, yes.
Say about why we are keeping it. I learned it practically because the question was asked many times to me, why the opposite grip? So I noticed in deadlift, when you are not, I say it's my own experience, when you are not holding the opposite, because one force is from up, one force is from bottom.
Yes.
So the balance while lifting is exactly correct. But when you're holding both on either side, anytime I have seen any of my clients used to lift it, they used to, if the barbell was straight, barbell used to turn just a little bit off from being straight. Now, this is one thing I saw with my own eyes, but when the opposite grip was there, it was much easier for my clients to easily do that.
Also you have to bear in mind when you're holding the same grip, right? And when you're using compared to the opposite, the muscle, when you use a straight grip, whether it's this or whether it is this, any kind of a bend and lifting on is taken by the back. But the minute you go one opposite, you are distributing the weight on your shoulder also. So that is why you have to do that. So we are actually distributing, the whole idea for holding it opposite is to distribute the weight from the whole back taking the load just to, this is, I would say it is a form of cheating, right? Yeah. But it is not. It is just we are distributing the weight load on, not the 100% weight load on our back, but the shoulders also taking a certain point. So if you see, this is the kind of position where if you're doing your bent over also, right? Your one arm dumbbell, you will take this. If you take this also, you will see how the pressure comes along when you go in this angle or this angle. So the whole idea, like I said, is to spread the weight out so your back doesn't take a toll. Because when you talk of deadlifts, the world's strongest, I believe he's done like around 500 kgs of deadlift. So you can imagine a 500 kg deadlift, how much your back is taking on that.
Totally.
So this is the last part, is your feet. How your feet has to be placed. This again is in line with your shoulder. Your shoulder, which is in line completely, and this is the distance also which has to be. Not too close and not too wide also.
Yeah, but
And
Sunil, now
here,
we are talking about this. Just no, maybe a reminder for others, and also a question for you. It could be both. So what we are talking right now, it's the basic and how the safest way needs to be. But there are advanced clients who are really pushing the boundaries and they are doing way differently. That doesn't mean they are doing it wrong. It's just that they like to push it harder than it is. So obviously they look for something else. So that doesn't mean they are not knowing what they do, but so we don't have to correct them, let them be. But it's just that this is the safest way for us to be injury free, because those people who are doing the way advanced, they don't really worry about the injury. They are ready to accept it, and obviously they go extremist.
no,
Because
but then I'll let you I'll make you stand you corrected here, Arash. See, whatever it is, the advanced or whatever it is, the basic core principle, the basic technique will remain the same. What is the advanced is now in here. You cannot do any advanced form. This is it starts from your basic to all the way to the advanced. Whether you're lifting 5 kilos or whether you're going to be lifting 500 kilos, this positioning of your leg, of your shoulders, everything will remain the same. There is nothing going to change in that. Nothing is going to change in that. When we talk about the advanced form, now when we talk about basic simple bicep curls, we're talking with the straight arm bar, okay, or we talk with the dumbbell curls. When we talk about the advanced, is basically variations to it, whether you go hammer, whether you go inner, whether you go outer, whether you can do your your concentration curls, whether you do the preacher. So these are the advanced, but the whole core is, even if you have to do your bicep, if you are going heavy, right? I had mentioned this in this session which I was going to be talking about. When you go heavy, you can cheat to a certain extent, but when you are going light, you have to be strict with your movement in order to get the effectiveness. When you go heavy, you will be less repetitions. You can cheat, you can take help also. But again, coming to the point, the basic principle, the basic concept, the basic technique of that particular training will remain the same. Now, if I come back to the same thing here, the shoulder press, right? This is the basics, which has to be there. You cannot do anything with the wrist. The wrist always has to be straight.
I agree with you, but now let's talk about the differences. I've seen power lifter, not bodybuilder. I absolutely agree with you. Bodybuilders, we need to have a proper wrist, so the focus comes actually on the muscle. Otherwise, the focus will be distributed. We don't need that. But power lifters, they don't want that. They go different way. They use the wrist, as a matter of fact, because they want lower level of height, maybe.
Yes.
To bring it up. But now again, the distance that you are mentioning, coming to bodybuilders, now either with the push or the pull. I've seen now, as you mentioned, in the pull-up, they hold really wide, and they believe that the wider you hold, the more wider length in the shoulder you will get. So your lats will grow much wider if you have a wider grip.
Yes.
In the push, they are saying, like, instead of holding it close and going straight, you hold it much wider and you go outer. So you will end up having more curves on your shoulders. Now, these are mostly in compound exercise that we can see the differences. Like deadlift, you mentioned, you said this is it. It cannot be any more than that. You are absolutely right. This is it for the safest and the most correct way. But again, if I do a deadlift, I like to when I lift up, I like to just crunch my back a little bit, so my upper back also get involvement as well as my lower back.
Exactly.
So
See, those are the variations you are doing. It's not basically you, when you talk of a deadlift, it's a completely different ball game altogether. But what you're doing is you are kind of doing a supersetting within a set.
truly,
You get me?
yeah.
It's the same thing when I'm doing my the chest with I'm doing my dumbbell flies, right? I don't like to do my dumbbell flies. So what I do is I take a dumbbell and I do my chest press with a dumbbell, but then I tend to go with a different angle. I keep changing the angle around it. So it's a kind of a two-in-one way of for me to doing my flies and my press at the same time. You're getting my point? So this is the kind of a convenient way of saving time.
Truly. But also in a squat, I
Yes.
noticed that what you are saying of not going lower than the level of 90-degree, it's
Yes.
absolutely right. But some of the bodybuilders, they are saying no, that they mentioned that you have to rub the floor with your butt. They go
No.
that way because they want to maybe feel the pull on the quadriceps to the maximum. Obviously, as you mentioned, knee injuries is going to be there, certainly. But obviously, the pull on the quadriceps is going to be there as well. And the glutes involvement will be much more.
Exactly. Now, let me tell you one thing. These are the people now I will ask them. Okay, now those people itself, you can check them right now when they're training, and post 10 years or 15 years, you should see them. Because I have seen these kind of trainers, I have seen these kind of bodybuilders who have done these kind of variations which did not make any sense to me. And today, they cannot walk properly. They're having knee problems, they're having knee surgeries and all that stuff. And we don't want that.
True.
So point being is you need to have the right technique at the right point itself, and you need to go clean with it. It again depends on what is your goal. What do you want to achieve? Okay. You want to become a professional bodybuilder? Then yes, there are umpteen ways of going for professionally where you have to take a lot of effort and put in, like it's basically like a job. When you talk of becoming a professional bodybuilder, it's like a proper job. People are actually training for 6-7 hours a day, and the rest of the time they're just eating and sleeping. That is it. When they do 6-7 hours of training, they do like three hours in the morning, they'll do 3-4 hours in the evening. Because I'm sorry, I kind of like overlooked the time bar and I was so engrossed that I completely skipped off it and that meeting just poofed.
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
Yeah. Happens.
So, Arash, point being is we don't want to overdo things beyond our limitations. And also, if we know what we want to achieve and what we want to gain, like if you want to become a professional bodybuilder, it's a different ball game. If you want to become a fitness builder, it's a different ball game. If you want to become a sportsman, it's a different ball game. Or if you want to just simply go to the gym to be fit, it's a different ball game. So we need to first of all understand when the members come along, when people want, what are their requirements? What do they want? What is it that they're achieving? You know, when people come to me that I want to become Arnold Schwarzenegger, I remember in my time, you know, people used to come to me like, yeah, Sunil, I want to become Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, fine. That's very good. But in 2 months' time, I said, you know what, take the door and walk out. So these are the kind of people you don't want, you know. Bodybuilding or any kind of a sport requires determination, discipline, and a lot of your time.
Truly. So,
How
do you
do
believe in a spot fat reduction or no?
Sorry?
Spot fat reduction?
I have written an article also on that. I personally, it has a certain ways of working along for spot reduction, right? But it depends on what you're talking on, what part of the body itself. Now, there are some parts where, especially now you talk of your, the sides, the obliques, yeah? Those are very difficult. The love handles are very difficult to lose, right? But that is something which has to be lost through spot reduction. It's because the kind of training that you do the sides.
Jawline.
Sorry?
How about the jaw? The fat which we are getting around the neck and the jaw?
That will go automatic when you're training. Okay. There are simple exercises. You have like they say, you every morning when you get up, right, before you brush and all that stuff, you have to just say the vowels for at least 6, 7 times loud, meaning not, you don't need to scream it out, but you can just say the vowels 6, 7 times, like A, E, I, O, U. So these are kind of exercises that you do in the morning, right after you get up from the, right, right after you get up. And then after that, you can get along with the brushing and all that stuff, carry on with the first thing. So this will help to lose and shape up your jawline, work around the muscles on your face. So this will give you that kind of face that you want. Also, a lot of people, they say that, when you're training, try to keep a calm face, otherwise you get a lot of wrinkles later on in life, right? I don't feel that is really much of a notion as such. I'm now 46 and I've been training heavy. You moisturize your skin, yeah. So you go along, do your training and all. I do make faces, make your sounds, as whatever makes you comfortable, just do it. And another thing, very important thing, is your breathing. Breathing has its own techniques, and when we are exercising, when we are exerting, we inhale, and when do we exhale is when we are releasing, right? But in yoga, it is the opposite. When you're doing your stretches, you're supposed to exhale.
Yeah.
When you exhale, it kind of helps to open up the body more and more, relaxed it out. But when you're doing boxing, or you're doing swimming, yeah, or you're playing football, or for the sprinters, the breathing technique is completely different for them. So if you can master the breathing technique, you are sorted. You don't really need those cardios and all that stuff. Cardio helps to build up the stamina. Yes, it helps to make your heart strong. But at the same time, if you are not breathing well, it is of no use.
How's the breathing in dancing?
Yes. And breathing and dancing and drinking goes very well.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, wonderful sessions. I like the pictures. I like the understanding. And I always try to make.
I will create a PDF file of this and I'll put it across on the group also. So for others also, there are a few trainers also there on the group. So let them also understand it. It is very important is how we do that same thing. And you also mentioned with regards to the advanced training and all that stuff, we need to understand see a simple military press also, right? It's a simple movement, right? You have to just lift, make sure your movements are straight and all that stuff. But then you have to also bear in mind your person who is doing it, his height, his weight, his flexibility, everything. And accordingly, you need to maneuver your training and exercise for their benefit. Because many a times, if a person who is short, he will be able to do, their back length is shorter, so they can take a lot of load weight overhead. Person who is tall, like I'm 6'2", for me to do overhead becomes very problematic. So standing exercise I tend to avoid because it takes a toll right on my back. So what I do is the standing exercise, I prefer to sit.
Yeah.
So I distribute that. So this is how we have to work things around.
Now that you mentioned sitting, apart from the height and the reduction of the pain from the spine that we are providing sit, but for, let's say, normal heighted client, what would be a real difference between stand up or sitting position and doing exercise? Like lateral,
No, standing up is always the best. Remember that. Standing up exercise is always the best because it gives the whole body that kind of movement and all that stuff. It's like a functional training. Simple as that. When you're seated, it's only working on that particular muscle. But when you are standing straight, the whole body is working along to balance it out. The weight when you're taking in front, if you're taking it, in the front or to the side. So your whole spine, also your hip, is balancing it out completely. So it for me, it is always good that any exercise if a person can do standing, do it.
Okay.
Also, I'm completely against it when the trainers are actually lifting up the weights and setting up the plates for the members and all that stuff. Please don't do that. It's stupidity. It is for the member himself. He has to understand that I have to go pick it up. I have to rack it up. I have to unrack it and put it back on the rack. It is for their own good. It is not that they're doing the work. It is just the functionality. They don't need to do any functional training. This is simple daily movements that they can do so the body gets flexible. It's a simple thing. So that's where the trainers have to educate the members.
Yeah, I've noticed that sometimes they sit on a bench, they grab one dumbbell. Now it can be heavy for them, but it's not really heavy, but whatever. No, they ask the person to hand over the other one. Once one client asked me and I looked at him, I said, if you cannot lift it, why do you want to do it? And then he was offended. I said, don't be offended. I'm serious. If you cannot control the weight, there is no point of doing it. Just learn. Or even throwing the dumbbell. I really hate that. I say, like, you need to be in control. Just control your own dumbbell. Otherwise, do not even lift it. So, yes.
Again, it's just where the understanding and the people across have to train them. It's the mindset that has to change. Again, coming back to the point of the simple start where we had started the mindset where people have to get their own towels, they have to get their own zippers itself. It's a simple, basic hygiene. Forget about yourself. Think about the others there. If the other person will think that way also for you, remember that it always is a give and take. So if we can maintain that, then yes, have the gyms open right away, but change the mindset.
Well, I don't see it happen next soon. But
yeah, Marzi.
When are the gyms opening in Pune?
No idea as such. What I have a kind of feeling is sometime end of the month or else the first week of November.
Oh.
But Maharashtra, I think so. It's not only Pune.
I knew that some gyms, they were open, some gyms, by keeping the door shut, just opening to the members and then closing it and, like that way. And apparently there were many of them in NIPM area. So yesterday, one of my friends who was doing that, actually, he came to me and he said they received a notice from the government that if you guys continue doing that and see it, we're going to seal your place for 6 months. So they all got worried now.
Makes sense. Makes sense, yeah. It doesn't really, serve the purpose out here. We have to work collectively. It's not only a one person this thing. It's a thing for the entire humanity to come together and work on this here. So we have to think not only for us, but we have to think for everybody around us. At the end of the day, if we don't work together on this, we will not be able to fight it out. It'll still be there. So we need to work together.
Truly.
Yes. Any more questions?
Yeah. Well, it was very, literally speaking, it was very, very heavy session for me. the weights look too heavy for me.
Okay. Next week, Arash is going to be preparing some nice. He'll be baking some nice protein cookies, and he'll make some nice protein shake for us. So we'll be ready for that now. So I'll have that thing set. Okay. Yeah. So right. Next week will be more interesting on this.
Yeah, we're gonna do this.
Arash, after you've made the shake, I will send you my address. You can refast the shake to me.
Harry does that much better. You can get in touch with Patty. She can make and send you those a yummy bar which I haven't tried yet. Yeah, so
that'll be nice. Thanks for your time and session.
Yeah, thanks, sir. Thanks, Sunil.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you very much.
Bye. Yes.
Bye.
Bye.